Injury reports are rolling in fast, and there is plenty of news to dissect for week number 5. We are here to take your questions live on air and also do a snake draft to get you set for week number 5 in the main slate over on FanDuel. This is the snake draft Q&A right here on the FanDuel YouTube, Twitch, Facebook, and Twitter channels. My name is Jim Sonis. I am a senior writer and analyst for numberfire.com, joined here as always by Brandon Gadula and JJ Zacharyson. We're doing a snake draft live on air for today to get you set for week number 5. I forgot to update the banner with who won for last week, but it was in fact JJ. And that's probably why I forgot to update it. So JJ, editor-in-chief of Number Fire and FanDuel, you are up 2-1-1 in our snake draft. What is your level of confidence entering week 5?
I mean, considering I drafted from the upside down last week, where I was, I had no internet, but I was able to do it through my phone still, and got that W. Needed that W because the week before was I think the week before was the AJ Brown week where I had him and he only got 0.3 points. Right. So yeah, I'm pretty pleased with how things ended up last week.
Back on top. No one else had the undisputed lead outside of JJ so far this year. So we are scrambling to make up ground. Let's talk to you, Brandon Gadula, the managing editor of numberfire.com. Brandon, we've had a lot of weird injury news throughout the day. Dalvin Cook, questionable, got in a limited practice on Friday. Christian McCaffrey is doubtful. Zeke Elliott, technically questionable. Sounds like he's good to go, but a lot of injury news. So how are you viewing things here, specifically with the Vikings running backs as of now?
I think if for a snake draft or for salary cap?
For snake draft.
Probably just going to hope you guys take Dalvin.
It's
probably...
I think the concern with Dalvin is he may play, but had the same role as last week where he played half the snaps, didn't get
that's what I'm saying.
A ton of work. Like that's concerning to me.
Yeah, you're asking me how I'm handling it. I'm saying I'm probably just going to avoid it and let you guys deal with it. Maybe he just goes undrafted. That'd be something.
The problem that you have is after Derrick Henry is gone, the 1.02 is pretty tough to figure out. I think I know who I have there. I'm not sure if that is going to be universal. Actually, no.
I think I know. Changed my mind. Second.
Oh, who do you think? Guess.
Saquon.
No, I'd change my mind. It was him initially, but I've changed my mind.
I have someone at I hope I get the 102 because I feel like I know who I want to get at 102.
Okay, so you intentionally don't want Derrick Henry. Okay.
I want Derrick Henry, of course. But...
Okay, so other stuff to discuss for today. Joe Mixon still not officially out. We don't know what his status will be. JJ, I talked to Brandon about Samaje Perine yesterday, so I want to talk to you now. Our concern was that Perine might not get passing game work with Chris Evans being there. And that's a massive ding to someone on FanDuel. So how would you view Samaje Perine specifically relative to Damian Williams, considering salary cap stuff, over on FanDuel if we assume that Joe Mixon sits?
Yeah, I have way more confidence in Damian Williams than I do Samaje Perine. I think Williams is in store to be... not quite David Montgomery in terms of workload and in terms of backfield share, but I think that you can get like 80 to 90% of that. Whereas Samaje Perine, I mean, would we be shocked if we walked away from that game in Cincinnati and there was actually a 50-50 split between him and Chris Evans? I don't think that would be that crazy. There was people asking me last night before the Seahawks game, should I just play Alex Collins or should I go with Samaje Perine? And to me, it was very obvious to go the Alex Collins. I know Alex Collins didn't have like this unbelievable game, but from a process standpoint, I don't think that Samaje Perine is necessarily in this spot where he's number one a smash play. Right. And this game could be a negative script for Cincinnati too, against Green Bay. And so, like you mentioned, I mean, they've used Chris Evans at times already this season as a satellite back. Wouldn't shock me at all if they do that again in this game. But even if they don't do that, I could see a scenario where it's like a 60-40 split where they're just like alternating drives or something like that.
One final question before we go into the snake draft for you, Brandon. Seems pretty definitive that Trey Lance will start now. Jimmy Garoppolo didn't practice once again Friday. So now that we have a better idea that Trey Lance will start this game, he's gotten all the first team reps throughout this week. How are you viewing Trey Lance in terms of the salary cap at $6,900 on FanDuel?
It's a really nice salary for someone who ran 7 times for 41 yards and a half last week. I mean, you and I went back and forth on Deebo Samuel. I think his salary is a little bit too high on FanDuel, but if you pair him with Lance, that kind of cancels each other out. So I think it's kind of just arrow up on Lance. especially in a week where there's kind of two quarterbacks that we love,
And then a massive cliff.
and then a massive cliff, and Lance is going to be part of, I guess, someone like hanging on to like the middle of that cliff somewhere.
Yeah.
He's not
I
down
think
in the
to
bottom,
me-
but
Yeah, I don't think that Lance sneaks in for the snake draft, given the concerns around his readiness to play. I mean, his experience level is very low, so it's easy to be skeptical there. But for salary cap, it does make a lot of sense. And I'm very curious who that third quarterback will be in this draft. Kyler Murray, Dak Prescott, very easy sells. After that, though, things do get a bit muddy. I think I know who I want third, but we'll have to see how things break in the draft. So, JJ, why don't you go ahead and enter yourself in? Let's get this snake draft underway.
I have a feeling I'm going to get
the
the
101.
No, I'm going to get the 102. Just wait. Here we go.
All right.
And I got the 101.
Told you. I get the 102, so I get the worst of it.
Why isn't it refreshing for me? All right, I'm gonna refresh it.
Yeah, probably just refreshing on B.
Unless I didn't enter,
I need
it's
to-
possible.
No,
Yeah,
you
you're in
definitely
there.
did.
You're third.
in there.
Okay, good. Okay. Just want to make sure.
There's still 40 seconds left until
Okay.
we.
I feel pretty good about
There you go.
1.03. Maybe this is me coping. But
Yeah.
I feel okay about it.
I can tell you guys I'm going Derrick Henry with the 101.
Wow, shocked. Thought you might consider
smash
like
spot.
I know I'm always pessimistic, but I knew this was going to happen, especially once JJ said he wanted the 102.
I just willed it into. I mean, I had to play some reverse psychology against
Yeah.
the world. So
and there's
yeah,
no
naturally.
consideration deviating from Henry, correct? Like there's no consideration going
There's no
elsewhere?
consideration. I'm going Derrick Henry 101. I do have. I mean, once we are done with the draft, I can tell you who I would have gone 102. We'll see
Okay,
what you
cool.
guys end up doing with your picks. But all right, here we go.
All right.
Derrick
so
Henry.
JJ will take Derrick
Welcome.
Henry first, which puts Brandon on the board at 1.02. What you doing?
So I have, well, I don't want to tip my hat too much here. You said you don't want Saquon, but I know you'll probably take him fourth.
Yeah.
I actually have someone ranked higher than Saquon. I know you're not going to take him second because you can't, but like I think I'm just going to go with Saquon here. I love this game.
Okay. I would have taken Saquon 1.03 behind Devonta Adams, so I wanted at 1.02. That was the one thing I changed my mind with.
That was my 102 as well. Yeah.
I had Adams my 102, but
Saquon wouldn't have gotten back to you. So
yeah.
I think now the tough part is, do I go with the guy who gets the yardage but no touchdowns, or all the touchdowns but not as much yardage? I'll take the tutties, and we'll go with Aaron Jones at the 1.04 for me. So double.
Oh, Brandon, go ahead. Brandon, go ahead.
All right. I'm gonna go.
Sorry, kids.
Yeah, I'm thrown off here.
I'm not.
Probably. I don't know.
No idea where
with
I'm
it.
going.
Got to learn some point.
I don't like this game as much, but I just gonna go with Austin Eckler here.
I would have too.
Yeah.
I am going to go with who I think you could have considered this guy 102. I already talked about this. You guys know probably who I'm going to go, but I am trying to waste a little bit of time because I don't know who I'm going to get with the next one, but I'm going Zeke
Okay.
with the next pick to lock that up. And then it's really tough because I feel like there's just a giant tier of wide receivers for the most part. Like, I don't know if there's, an obvious route to go there.
Right.
I might just, man, this is rough.
It's a tough week.
I'm just going to go with Justin Jefferson with the next pick.
I think that's fair in this
It's
format.
just a
3-person,
kind of a safe route there because I had no idea what to do. I think that there are running backs you can consider. I just worry a little bit about like Kamara's usage in general as a receiver right now, and I think that projection systems in general are kind of overstating Kamara a little bit, just given what we've seen so far. Not that I think he's a bad player or anything, but
I would have gone DJ Moore if you hadn't.
Okay.
Brandon. So
I'm just nervous about Dalvin to the point where I didn't want to take him there.
Yeah. I'll take Kamara. I didn't like for a salary cap format. He's not super tempting to me, but I think here I'll do it. And then after that, I kind of want to go CeeDee Lamb. Is that aggressive?
I would say it's a bit aggressive.
Okay.
I mostly said that because I wanted to take game stack there. But
Okay. Sorry to deprive you.
Well, I didn't want to go with CD Lamb over DJ Moore. I wanted that game stack with Barkley. That's kind of why I took Barkley. I thought I had a little bit of flexibility with game stacks.
Yeah.
With Zeke, but I also couldn't go Zeke over Eckler. Now I'm kind of, oh boy, I don't want to go. Jim's gonna roast me for this.
Debo.
Go Debo.
You spent 16 minutes arguing with me between Monday and Thursday.
I have.
Oh, Debo is not sustainable, and it's not sustainable to an extent.
I have Mike Williams and Keenan Allen above him. I just couldn't. I didn't want to have two Chargers because I don't love that Chargers Browns game enough.
Okay. All right, I'm going Kyler.
Okay.
And I don't know how to here. I'm gonna do what we. I'm just doing it. I went Dalvin.
Okay, so if Dalvin gets ruled out, you can replace him.
Yes, that's we should have thrown that caveat out there. I will replace him with Alexander Madison.
I should have taken him.
Yeah,
with that last pick.
there you go.
I should have. I know.
Now
you can just go.
Well, it doesn't matter. No one else picks before me. So
I know, but you have to figure out what you're doing with the third quarterback.
I don't know, man. I don't know what I'm doing with this next pick. Like, I guess I'm gonna go Keenan. Let's go Keenan. And then for quarterback, for my final pick, I don't know, man. Like, I don't want any of these jabronis. Maybe I just go Tom Brady, or do I go Herbert to get the stack with Allen? Like the matchup, I could go Hurts. I should probably go Hurts. Jalen Hurts. Let's go Jalen Hurts. I think he's the number 3 quarterback, not accounting for salary. It was between him and Brady, I think, were the two guys I would have most prioritized there.
Did you consider Rodgers there at all with your Green Bay guys?
That game is so slow. I think I'm already a little bit too exposed to that game via those two guys. To be honest, I forgot they were on the same team when I was making the 1.03 and 2.01 picks. But oh well.
I hate that I'm doing this, but I'm gonna pick Hopkins with the next pick. It's just his work in that offense has been so ugly, but I need some correlation in this lineup.
Yeah, and you get it with Arizona's wide receiver 3.
Yeah, exactly.
You forgot Rondale. He's wide receiver 4.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay, so these are our rosters. Once my computer refreshes here. I don't know, man. I was pretty lost that entire time. Let's start with JJ.
This is the toughest draft that we've probably ever done.
It's the thinnest pool we've had. Like, there's no Tyreek, there's no Kelsey, there's no Kupp, there's no Woods, apparently. There's no Metcalf. Like, we're down so many guys. I don't want to draft a lot of I guess my team's fine, but I don't feel great about it. Let's go to JJ first. You got Kyler stacked with Nuke. You've got Dalvin, and if he is ruled out, you can switch to Madison. Are you worried that Cook will play and just be limited? What's your concern level there?
Yeah, that's definitely a concern. But I'm just gonna see sort of how things work out and go. I mean, I don't think that I would have made that move if the matchup weren't as juicy and looking as good as it is for Minnesota's offense just in general to score points this week. I would be a lot more hesitant if it was like how Najee's facing Denver or something like that, just some really ugly defense, an ugly game and a rough defense to run on. So it's a little bit easier that even if Dalvin has 60% of the team's workload, he could still score double-digit points and be fine enough. And then, I added him with Justin Jefferson just for that Minnesota onslaught a little bit. Didn't feel great about DeAndre Hopkins for all the things we already noted. He's not seeing the type of target share that he's typically seen or that we would want him to see as a true alpha, but wanted to stack Kyler in some way, get a little bit more correlation in the lineup. And then obviously having Derrick Henry there and Zeke, who I think are two good anchors at running back. I'm okay. I'm fine enough with this lineup, but I think it's mostly because I got lucky that I was able to get the 101 with Derrick Henry.
You mentioned that you were okay taking Zeke at 1.02, or at least considering him in that range. And I don't disagree with that, but I want to hear your rationale. I think that's correct, but I want to hear your thought process behind that.
Yeah. I mean, I think that it's one of those games this week that you could stack, and it could be fairly high scoring. Zeke is playing not the role that we've seen him play over the last couple of years because he's not seeing as much work through the air, but it's a Dallas team that is they have an implied total of 29 points this week. It's a beatable defense. He's seeing a lot of goal line work. I mean, all of the above. So if they do see a positive script there and they do score points, you just want to be you want to have that lead back in your lineup. So given the fact that there wasn't an obvious 102, I think Devontae Adams was the 102. And I think you can make a case for Saquon as well for sure. But in a half PPR format and setting, yes, absolutely receptions matter. Absolutely volume through the air matters. But we're also looking at sort of an outlier offense right now in terms of their efficiency and the way that they can score points and convert touchdowns. So I'm still high on Zeke week in and week out because he has 2+ touchdown upside every single week.
Speaking of the Cowboys, Brandon, you got Dak Prescott as your quarterback and ran it back with DJ Moore here. I wish I had gotten Dak. I should have gone Dak over CeeDee Lamb. I think that was a mistake in my drafting because the fall off at quarterback was bigger than the fall off at receiver, which is very much the opposite of what we usually have. I think this week I made a mistake there. Any thoughts for you on your team?
So I was considering Devontae at 102. I wanted access to stacks with the Giants-Dallas game, so that kind of was a tiebreak for me. I didn't really want to stack the Green Bay game. I didn't really get to do that aside from Dak. I didn't want to reach for Lamb. I'm not fully willing to trust Amari Cooper right now. And then I didn't get Zeke. So that was kind of the no-brainer for me once JJ took Kyler, I had to take Dak or else I was going to be stuck with that decision. Eckler, Swift, and Barkley give me just 3 of the guys who were top 9 in adjusted opportunities per game among running backs. So I feel good with that. DJ Moore, Deebo Samuel basically kind of locked into like double-digit targets. So I feel like there's a path to a win this week, even though I don't have a ton of correlation. So all things considered, I think I got out of this one. I feel pretty good, even though there were a lot of back and forths and things that just guys going right before or right after me that I really wanted.
Toughest decision for me was deciding who to go at quarterback 3. I want to hear what you guys would have done. I went Jalen Hurts just because the rushing is great from a floor perspective, but also gives him the ceiling. I bet the Panthers -3 to win this game. So I don't think that they're going to win, but I think that the components that Hurts provides are enough to still make him the quarterback 3. The guys I consider were Brady and Herbert. JJ, where would you have gone with that third quarterback there?
Yeah, I mean, I don't think there was an obvious answer. I still think you could have maybe considered Rodgers too in that group, but yeah, I mean, I think in your position, I probably would have gone Hurts. But I think that given your lineup, you could have made an easy case for Justin Herbert as well in a game that, is fairly attractive. And, you already had that Keenan Allen piece.
Brandon, what would you have done? Quarterback 3.
Hurts, unless I was picking last and had, or picking third and had kind of a double, like a double dip and picking at the turn, like you did, I might have went Brady Godwin there, to get a stack.
Yeah.
That's an offense that you and I basically didn't even talk about for the most part, aside from like Leonard Fournette, just because that spread's pretty massive. But you can get like a 75th percentile outcome with a 10-point spread. It's those like 90th percentile outcomes that are kind of harder. I'm not as worried about a 90th percentile outcome in a 3-person draft, but I would have gone Hurts if I didn't have a stack. I would have considered a Brady Godwin stack though.
I think that's very fair.
Yeah.
Let's go to some questions here and take your questions. You can send questions in via YouTube, Twitch, Facebook, or Twitter. We'll take them wherever. Let's start with Joseph. He's asking, would you drop or hold Justin Fields now he's officially the starter? We can say you should hold on to Fields now, Joseph. But let's talk about Trey Lance versus Sam Darnold. JJ, who you got, Trey Lance or Sam Darnold in week 5?
I think Sam Darnold's a safer option. I don't think that we're going to see what we saw with Justin Fields, his first start with Trey Lance for a lot of reasons. I mean, you have a completely different offensive scheme, offensive coaches that are smarter. You have a better offensive line situation, and you have better weapons. And the game itself should, they should be playing catch up, and they're going to have to be fairly aggressive. I think Trey Lance, Sam Darnold has shown a ceiling. I understand that. Part of that also, though, has to do with rushing touchdowns and such. I think that Trey Lance might still have a slightly better ceiling than Sam Darnold just because of ambiguity, but I think Darnold is still probably the better option, at least this week. I would still try to hold on to him to Lance. Don't drop him. I would prefer, if you have all 3 of those guys on your team, I think you could drop Fields in that case because I think Lance has a higher ceiling from here on out if he were to be the starter. But if it's like a super flex league or something, or if you're, like you have to look at what your waiver wire looks like and see if you can get usable quarterbacks off the waiver wire to begin with, because then you don't want to drop a starting quarterback, obviously. But I do think that Trey Lance versus Justin Fields, Lance has the ceiling versus Fields from here on out. But if you need to play it a little bit more safe, it's fine to keep Fields. But I would probably play Darnold this week. But it's close. I can make a case for either guy.
Let's stick with Trey Lance here and talk to Tanantha. I'll take this one. Any concerns about starting Trey Lance, but also the Cardinals defense? Would this be capped upside? Is Tannehill a better alternative? I would be worried about the Cardinals defense for fantasy this week because I think the 49ers will probably be pretty run heavy. I know that doesn't matter as much for season long. We're talking, I tend to focus on DFS where I want upside. You don't get upside against run heavy teams. So I think you probably got better options in terms of streaming defenses. Like there are a lot of good options this week. So I would check the waiver wire, start Lance at quarterback, and then change out for your defense. Let's talk to Pat. What should Lockett and Metcalf roster people who rostered them do with uncertainty now surrounding Russell Wilson? So Russ's finger is gross. JJ, what are you doing with Lockett and Metcalf right now?
I mean, these are the scenarios where, obviously we're going to see a dip in production from Russ to Geno Smith, even though Geno Smith looked decent last night.
How dare you?
Yeah. So like, we're going to see a dip in production, but literally everyone knows that. Like everyone knows that this is happening for DK Metcalf and Tyler Lockett. So this isn't a scenario where you can say, oh, I'm going to just trade them away, because everyone knows what's going on with Russell Wilson. So I think you just got to hold tight and kind of hope that Geno can move the ball as he did, against the Rams, against a good defense. I mean, he did not look bad. It wasn't like a fluky thing, at least in the small sample that we saw. I thought that he looked pretty good. And so, yeah, from that perspective, I think you just kind of have to hold and just hope that Geno Smith can come through.
And Geno's not like Chase Daniel or anything. Like he's fine as a backup quarterback. So it's not like the bottom will totally fall out. And I think that's a good thing for those guys, especially because people will be, as you said, pretty concerned. Let's talk to Matt and let's talk to Brandon here. Is AJ Brown a safe start this week, or would you go Jacoby Myers or Marquise Brown instead? AJ Brown sounds like he's good to go facing the Jaguars. No Julio Jones this week. Would you use AJ Brown over Marquise Brown or Jacoby Myers, or I guess over both of them this week?
Yeah, full practice on Thursday, which is a really good sign. I have him projected the best of the three pretty easily in terms of floor and ceiling. So I would have really no issues with AJ Brown. The main concern is just that Tennessee's become really run heavy. But with Brown back, that should tick back up. They kind of really dipped down without Julio and Brown. But I mean, between those three, I would go AJ Brown.
Okay, let's talk about the London game, JJ. Nate is asking, with Calvin Ridley out, would you start Cordero Patterson in PPR over Jonathan Taylor, who has a tough matchup against Baltimore? I don't really know if Ridley being out helps Patterson, because I think that it increases the odds that offense craters, which decreases touchdown expectation, which decreases the outlook for everyone. But Patterson obviously is getting work. So would you start Patterson over Jonathan Taylor, who has his own issues from a usage perspective as well?
Yeah, like I don't think that it's like a given. I think the way that we would probably see this, it's a given that Cordero Patterson is all of a sudden this like way better play without Calvin Ridley. As you mentioned, I mean, they play completely different games. I like the matchup for Patterson, but I would still probably go with Jonathan Taylor. It's an offense that hasn't utilized him the way that we would want through the air, especially over the first 4 weeks of the season. And the matchup obviously isn't that great, and you run the risk of a negative game script. I understand all of that. But with Patterson, it's just like Brandon sent a great tweet out today saying that he, since 2016, I think it was, he's the leader or he's number 4 in like points per snap or something like that. And I mean, what Cordero Patterson is doing right now is just not very sustainable. He's still not playing a ton of snaps in that offense. They also got Wayne Gallman involved a little bit last week, so who knows what that's going to look like moving forward. I don't mind Cordero Patterson. I think that he's honestly like an RB2 type play this week. But I would still probably go with Jonathan Taylor. I think he's a little bit of a safer option.
Okay, let's go to Motive Jag on Twitch for Brandon. Michael Pittman or Emmanuel Sanders for the flex and full PPR. Manny is in a really fun game facing off with the Kansas City Chiefs. Michael Pittman, good role, but less fun game. I think this one's actually pretty tough for me to decide. You got any thoughts here?
Yeah, it's funny you say that because my projections have it basically razor thin. I've Pittman projected for more targets, but the outcomes are basically identical. I would probably just go with the better game here and go with Manny. I guess Emmanuel Sanders, sometimes people don't know a lot of people call him Manny. But yeah, I mean, that's one of those where I don't think you can go wrong. I would just probably err on the side of the better game.
I might start both if you can, honestly. Like, they're both pretty good options this week, so I'm not opposed to both. Let's talk about a different Patterson. We were talking about Cordero before. With Antonio Gibson dealing with a stress fracture in his leg, is Jarrett Patterson worth a stash? J.D. McKissick is like the pass-catching guy here, but I wouldn't expect him to become a bell cow if Gibson misses time. So, JJ, Jarrett Patterson, the Buffalo deity, is he worth the ad for you?
In a deeper format, like if you're in a 14 plus team league with decent benches, I think that it makes sense. But if you're in a 12 team league, 10 team league, I don't think it's that necessary because he's not, I'm sure that there's handcuffs out on your waiver wire that have more upside with an injury happening. And I understand there might be a more likely injury happening to Antonio Gibson versus some of those other guys. But like you said, Jim, you have JD McKissick there who's going to be the pass catching back if something were to happen to, he already is right now, but if something were to happen to Antonio Gibson, then we know that JD McKissick's probably in store for like a 15% target share per week. And Patterson's probably not going to see, he'll probably be in like the 5% range. Like he's just not like a high end handcuff. So even though the odds are in his favor, maybe more than other handcuffs to see the field eventually, I still think that in like a 12 or a 10 team league, it's really not worth it because there's probably better ads out there right now.
Okay, let's go to the Aircus. In half PPR, Brandon, Laviska Shenault or Kadarius Toney? I like both this week. I feel like I would go Shenault there, but I think both are pretty good options, right?
Yeah, I mean these are some really good good questions, like tough questions. So it's tough obviously there's a chance of picking wrong, but again, this is really close. I have it. Laviska Shenault, I don't love from like an air yard standpoint, but we have seen him get some downfield work. DJ Chark, his absence should lead to at least more opportunities. Teams come out and said that they want to get him the ball more. So you got to like that. I like the Giants-Dallas game. That's my favorite game of the week on the main slate. I really don't think you can go wrong, but I would probably lean Shenault.
I would as well. Let's talk to Shake and Bake. I'll take this one. Minnesota defense or the Dallas defense. The Lions offensive line is super banged up. Penei Sewell might not play this week. Frank Ragnow is out. Taylor Decker's still not back. And that's a rough situation. So I would go Minnesota. They're pretty comfortable. Let's talk to DJ. Clyde Edwards-Helaire or Damian Williams? JJ, we know we like Damian Williams for this week. Do you like him more than CEH in that game against the Bills?
Probably still going CEH there, just a better game environment in general. And look, a lot of these projections, like we think that Damian Williams will be a moderate bell cow, like an 80% of David Montgomery, let's say. But we have to be at least a little bit, like open-minded to the fact that they might use Khalil Herbert more than we expect or something like that. Whereas we sort of know what CEH's role is in that offense right now. And while that role probably, if you think about their peripherals at the end of the day, maybe Damian Williams' peripherals are a little bit better than CEH at the end of this week. But from a projection standpoint, you're working within those peripherals within the Chiefs offense versus the Bears offense. So I'm going to favor CEH there.
Okay, let's talk to Grim Fan. They have Zeke Elliott, Chase Edmonds, Kareem Hunt, or Josh Jacobs. I would note that Chase Edmonds is banged up. He is questionable. I think he was limited, or he said he's going to be a game time call this week. So you might not need to make a decision here, Grim Fan. Just noting that for you that Edmonds is pretty banged up right now. If he's like a full go, I'd probably bench Josh Jacobs there. Is that crazy, JJ?
I don't think it's crazy. I think it's between. I think you could consider benching Kareem Hunt too, honestly, just because the matchup is just not great, and they're splitting that backfield still. I think it's between Hunt and Jacobs if Edmonds does go. Edmonds has just had such a nice floor. There should be a decent game script for them. They should score a lot of points. So it's between Jacobs and Hunt for me. I mean, I can go with your choice, Jim, so that we have one answer for him.
Synergy. Let's talk to Daniel. Are we worried about Leonard Fournette with Gio Bernard presumably back? Other options are Chase Edmonds, Joe Mixon, and Emmanuel Sanders. Daniel, I would downgrade him, but like he's not totally off the map. Like he still gets good work. It's not great work, but I would expect Fournette to still have an okay role, similar to what he had weeks 1 through 3. Which would make it risky if they were to fall behind, but they're probably not going to fall behind Jacoby Brissett with Devontae Parker banged up. So I would say he's okay there, but I don't mind Manny in that situation either. Aaron is asking early only cash on FanDuel, Tom Brady or Kirk Cousins. I'd actually go Jalen Hurts there personally because there's no Kyler and there's no Dak for the early only slate. Brandon, Jalen, Tom Brady, or Kirk Cousins?
I would rank them in that order. That's
okay.
Probably pretty safe. I'm a little bit nervous because you and I talked for a long time on yesterday's podcast, and had basically two quarterbacks with Kyler and Dak that we really liked. Trey Lance is now in that conversation, but just even with that, someone I didn't think about is Tom Brady in a game where he should just have really efficient passing, could rack up those 4 touchdowns and just go nuts. So I'd rank Hurts highest, but between the other two, I'd go Brady.
Okay. Grim fan, with Stephon Gilmore gone, how do you feel about the Pats defense this week? He's been out the first 4 games too, so I wouldn't change your analysis of the Patriots defense. The only thing I would say about the Patriots, their offensive line is crazy banged up right now. So that game is just going to be bad. That's not great for defenses either. So I think their ceiling is just okay. I know Davis Mills is not great, but I would be a bit worried there just because that game might not be great. DJ's asking, where was this Geno Smith when he was a Jet? DJ, he was on the field. He was being great. He was thriving. Geno's never done wrong. How dare you? T Prez on Twitch, need one in non-PPR. Latavius Murray at the Ravens, Javonte Williams, Michael Carter, Jamal Williams, also Vikings D or Steelers D. Both those Ds are great. So I feel no reservations there. JJ, where are you leaning between those running backs? That's a lot of guys kind of in a similar tier.
Yeah, I agree. And Michael Carter was a sleeper for me this week on my sleeper show. I think that he's in a really interesting spot where, he's seeing more and more work in that offense. I think probably Jamal would be my pick, but non-PPR, I'm not as intrigued. It's tough to trust Latavius just because, if we assume that Latavius is going to see a similar workload as this past week, I'd probably go Latavius in a non-PPR league. But yeah, I could make the argument for any of those 4 guys. Maybe Latavius is the move if you guys think that's the direction.
Yeah, I would probably say that the non-PPR.
Javonte? I don't know.
I just hate the I hate the matchup for Javonte a lot. But Melvin Gordon's been banged up, so maybe he sees a little bit more work. Who knows?
Speaking of which, Cortland Sutton, is it worth using a guy like Kadarius Toney or Darnell Mooney over him? I will note that Sutton turned his ankle in practice and is now questionable. Cool. It's also a bad game. It will be Teddy, it seems like it'll be Teddy, which is good. But JJ, would you use Toney or Mooney over Sutton based on what we know now, or do we have to wait until Sunday when we get more information on Sutton's health?
Yeah, look, I don't mind Toney or Mooney this week. Toney had a really healthy target share last week. Sterling Shepard's the main piece for him. If Sterling Shepard's out, then Toney gets that upgrade because he's going to play a lot in the slot. And there's a really nice environment in that game as well. And I don't mind Mooney, obviously, because of the deep ball ability with Justin Fields, et cetera, et cetera. I'd still probably go Cortland Sutton, though, because the Steelers secondary is very, very beatable. The Steelers secondary is not scary, and you shouldn't be scared about it.
Okay, final one going to Brandon here from JFlow 1992. Is Nick Westbrook-Akine worth going back to with Jones out again against Jacksonville? Westbrook-Akine was on the field a lot, doing some wind sprints this past week, but now AJ Brown is back. Might not be overtime. They might not run 100 plays again. So I'm personally not going to use any. What are your thoughts on Westbrook-Akine?
We got 8 targets. So I wouldn't know if that's just wind sprint level.
A lot of them, to be fair, those came towards the end of that game.
Yeah, it's still what,
which is why we probably have. It's why we probably have the perception is what I mean. That's why.
86% route rate. I just figure he'd probably fall off and it'd be AJ Brown and Reynolds, right?
I don't know. They utilize because Reynolds was scratched right for the first handful of games, and then
he was healthy and they didn't start him. It was weird.
They were using Westbrook-Akine. I might say Westbrook-Akine over Reynolds, but I still don't really want to go the Westbrook-Akine route. Yeah. And you do run the risk still that they could just run Reynolds because Reynolds looked better than Westbrook-Akine this past week. Yeah.
That's kind of what I was getting at. So
yeah,
I think it's tough to want to stick with that.
Apparently Jimmy G is officially ruled out. So Trey Lance season is upon us. Final one here. I lied. I said final one before. I lied. For you, JJ, Chuba Hubbard, Cordero Patterson, or Allen Robinson in PPR. We've not discussed Allen Robinson yet. So who you got there?
Not A-Rob. I think I might go Hubbard, but I say that mostly because last week he didn't play the best. He didn't have the best peripherals in general, but they saw that negative game script, and that was part of the reason. And I feel better about the game script potential in this game against Philadelphia. But it's close, I think, between him and Patterson this week in a PPR league.
I agree, which is weird. Cordell Patterson to the moon, baby. That is all that we have for today here on this Snake Draft live Q&A. Big thank you once again to Brandon Gadula and JJ Zachariason for joining me here today and doing the Snake Draft. Brandon, good luck to you. Let's try to even this thing up with JJ, okay? One of us, at least.
Yeah, I mean, I'd be cool with that. I'd prefer it'd be me, but yeah, I don't want JJ to get out to 3.
You can get me the win. That's okay. JJ, we appreciate the time as always, and good luck to you in your non-Snake Draft leagues this week.
Yeah, good luck trying to beat Derrick Henry, boys.
Find JJ on Twitter at LateRoundQB and find Brandon at Gadula13. I am at Jim Sannes, JimSannes. Make sure you are subscribed to the FanDuel YouTube, Twitch, Facebook, and Twitter pages. We have NFL streams Monday, Tuesday, Thursday, and Friday from 4 to 4:30. So make sure you swing by next week as well. Big thank you to Joy Affleck, our video producer, for running the video side of things here today. Thank you, Joy, as always. And thank you to everyone for tuning in. Good luck to you with your Week 5 lineups. We'll talk to you once again next week. This has been the Snake Draft Live Q&A.